Hello and welcome to PM Studios C# tutorials number 2. Today we are going to be going over declaring variables. I will be going over strings in this, well, just the very basics of strings in this tutorial, a much more in-depth explanation of how you can modify strings and all of the other fantastic features in the string library will be tutorial number 3. So without further ado, today let's go ahead and get working on this. As you can see, I've already created my solution. You can follow the exact same instructions as we did in tutorial 1 with the Hello World program. You can see that I created my solution and I called it declaring variables, all one word. You can name it whatever you like. This is the generally accepted naming convention in C# is it's called Pascal case. So you capitalize the first word and every word following, whereas for different things like methods, you'd leave the first word uncapitalized and then you'd capitalize every word following. In variables, you just leave everything uncapitalized, so on and so forth. So, excuse me. Go ahead and get started. I just wanted to lay out the foundation of all the different types of variables that you can access. These are all primitives. So the very first one is, of course, the integer or int. And we're going to go ahead and assign that called int equals a. And then the other one you can do is a float or a single. Singles also works as well, if you like, but we're going to be using float whenever we do floats. And we're going to put that 0.0, and then you have to put an f at the end of it. I don't know if I went over that in the Java tutorials as well, but that is the generally accepted method. Oh, and we also have to give them a name. So int a, float b, so on and so forth. Then the next one we're going to be going over is a double. A equals 0. There we go. Maybe now we'll get it off. Alright, and the next thing is a double, which is the exact same thing as a float, only it carries a larger decimal place. A float is only 16 bits, and a double is 32, so that is the difference. If you need a large scale, you can run a double. If you need a short or small scale, which is generally what's going to be happening more often than not, you can use a float, and that'll save you memory, which also saves processing time, so on and so forth, yada yada. So these are your three basic primitives for mathematical variables that you can access. You have integers, which don't allow decimals, floats, which are smaller than doubles, but allow decimals, and doubles, which are your 32-bit decimal integers. So moving on to the grammatical variables, there are two very simple ones. There's character, which we will not be using very much in this, and then of course we have everyone's favorite, the string. And the string is what we'll be using in this quite often, so if you can, go ahead and, just as a preemptive measure, make two strings right away. And spell it right, unlike me. And you can just set them equal to nothing, so it's just a blank string completely. And then we're going to go ahead and wipe out the floats and the double, so that all we have left is an integer and two strings. So after we're done with that, we're going to go ahead and move on into the actual code. And this we'll start off with a nice console.writeLine. And as you can tell, much like Small Basic, the program is actually filling in the lines that it can predict as I'm typing them out, so that it saves you time and it allows you to get a full kind of grasp of all the different utilities that you can use yourself. So please enter your first name. Oops. Yeah, and that's one of the downsides of that, is that it kind of jumps to conclusions on occasion. And then we're going to go ahead and do this as C. So we're going to assign this to C. C equals console.readline. Now this is a case-sensitive language, but you do not necessarily need to type it in case-sensitive type, because it will autocorrect you if you don't. So let's say I do console. Here we go, console. I push space and it automatically capitalizes everything for me. That's one of the beauties of all the Microsoft products, is that it's all very intuitive. I believe what they call it is IntelliSense. That is their integrated error checking method. You can see that it's constantly checking to make sure that we're using all of the variables that we declared, and it'll let us know that we haven't used any, so that we can kind of mop up our program and make it more streamlined and not consuming so much memory, so to speak. So the next thing we're going to do is another console.writeLine. We're going to go hello. Actually, not yet. We need to do please enter your age, period. And this is just an attempt to kind of mix it up from the Java tutorials. For those of you who went to those, I'm trying to make it so that you're not looking at the exact same information over and over again and not writing the exact same programs over and over again. So now, to get it to read an integer value, or any mathematical values for that matter, it's a little tricky, a little trickier than most normal programming languages. You need to do convert.toInt16, or 32 if it's a larger int, and then you need to, inside the parentheses, you need to type console.readLine. Put your parentheses, close that out properly. Alright, and now I'm going to go ahead and explain this. The reason why we do this is because the console.readLine and console.read read strings and characters in that order. So readLine reads strings, read reads characters. So what we want to do is, since there's no accepted way of reading integer values, or any mathematical values for that matter, we need to have it read it as a string so that it doesn't change anything or alter anything according to the ASCII values, and then we need to convert that string immediately into an integer or whatever value that we want to do, so that we can instantly have the proper value and it's in an integer format that we can accept and understand. So after that, we're going to do console.writeLine, and then we're going to do hello, comma, close the quotes, plus, and we're going to put in the name, so we're going to put plus C, plus, we're going to go, how does it feel to be, close the quotes, plus, and then we're going to add the integer right there, and we're going to put in a question mark, and close the parentheses, close that out. Now here's another thing that's really interesting. You can either go two ways from here. You can have them enter a value here and use that last string, so D equals console.readLine, whoopsies, there we go, .readLine. And that will, once they finish entering the information, the program will close out. Or, alternatively, you can, I forgot a plus sign right here. Alternatively, you can eliminate this completely, and you can go console.read, and then close that out properly. Now, the reason why we do this is because if we were to quote this out here real quick, so, and just so you know ahead of time, the single line comments are the exact same in here. So this is a single line comment, double slash, and this is a multi-line comment right here, even though it's not covering multiple lines. I did that for the visual appeal. So it is a slash and then an asterisk, and then to close the comment it is an asterisk and a slash. So if we were to run this really quick, I'm going to drag this over. We're going to enter our first name, so we're going to do Riz, and then 20 years old, and then it's going to post that, and then the only way we're going to be able to close out the program is going to hit return. It'll close out the program appropriately. Now if we were to close this out real quick, we can do this again, Riz 20. And you see that it didn't give us any time to read the actual message, it just closes out immediately. So in order to counteract that, we can do that, or alternatively, since we can also implement that other string, we can just comment this out and have them enter a response before we move on, and then that will be that. So once again, whoops, not 220 years old. Hit good. Alright, there we go. So that's pretty much it for today's tutorial. I hope you guys have a firm understanding of integers and strings, as well as the knowledge of doubles and floats, which we will get more into use in the following tutorials. So if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to post them in the comments section below, and I look forward to seeing you next tutorial.